Okay, so for this deep dive, we have a really interesting story someone sent in.
Yeah, and what really grabbed us about it was just how much this person changed their life. I mean,
Oh.
it's a total transformation.
Yeah, it is. And I think on the surface, when you first look at it, it seems like, oh, this is just somebody changing their job. But it's really so much more than that.
Right. It's really about how they figured out what they really wanted and then actually went for it, you know?
Yeah. And what makes it even more interesting is they left what most people would consider like a really successful life. Like this person was living in London, working as a marketing executive. They had a good salary, a nice modern apartment, even had potential to move up in their company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, you'd probably think, wow, they've really got it made right.
Totally. But, as you read their story, you start to see this feeling. They describe it as slowly fading and this heaviness.
Yeah, like something just wasn't quite right.
Exactly. Even though they had all this external success, it wasn't really translating into feeling happy or fulfilled on the inside.
It kind of shows you that just because you achieve things that other people see as successful, it doesn't mean you're going to feel satisfied personally.
And the way this person describes their daily routine is like a perfect example of that disconnect. They talk about needing coffee just to get going, the same commute every day, spending hours at a computer, doing work that felt kind of meaningless and without any real personal connection to their clients.
It's something that a lot of people in those kinds of jobs experience, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And there's this one phrase they use, not unhappy, exactly just unfulfilled, that really stuck with me.
Me too.
Yeah.
It just perfectly sums up that feeling of being kind of dissatisfied,
That
even when there's nothing really wrong.
It's not like hitting rock bottom or anything, but it's not feeling happy and excited about life either.
Right. You kind of get the sense that they're searching for something more, something that's missing.
Absolutely. And then there's this detail about the picture of a lion in Africa that was always on their computer screen. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just a random screensaver, it was like this recurring symbol of the life they were longing for.
Oh, yeah. It was more than just a decoration. It represented something much deeper, like a yearning for something wilder and more authentic.
Totally, like this unspoken desire that they weren't fully acknowledging yet.
And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. We all have those little hints or glimpses of things that really excite us, things that we might be ignoring or pushing down.
For sure. It's like those little nudges from our subconscious telling us that there might be something more out there.
And in this person's case, that connection to nature and wildlife went all the way back to their childhood. They talked about watching documentaries with their dad and being fascinated by the animals and also by the people who filmed them.
Right. It wasn't just about the wildlife, it was also about the photographers and filmmakers who were able to capture those amazing stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it seems like that early passion really stuck with them, but somewhere along the way it got pushed aside.
Yeah, they said they didn't think it was a realistic career path. So instead, they followed the more conventional route, went to university, got a business degree, and landed a stable office job.
Which, to be fair, is what a lot of us are encouraged to do. It seems like the safe and responsible thing to do.
Totally. But sometimes life has a way of shaking things up.
Right.
And for this person, that happened when they were sitting in a park one evening after a long week of work, just feeling completely drained and disconnected.
It's amazing how such a simple moment can be so pivotal in someone's life. Just sitting on a bench watching birds.
Yeah. But in that moment of quiet observation, they found a sense of peace that was completely different from the busy, stressful life they were living in London.
And it was then that they asked themselves this really important question. If I could do anything with my life, anything at all, what would it be?
And the answer came to them immediately and with so much certainty. I would travel the world and take photos of animals.
Wow. And it wasn't just a fleeting thought or a passing fantasy. It was a deep knowing, a powerful urge that they couldn't ignore.
Exactly. It was like all of a sudden everything became clear. They knew what they wanted and they were determined to make it happen.
But what's really impressive is that they didn't just quit their job on the spot. They took their time and spent 6 months preparing for this big change.
Which shows a lot of maturity and commitment, right? Like they weren't just being impulsive about it. They were actually planning and taking steps to make it work.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So they started saving money, of course, which is essential, but they also signed up for online photography courses. And they even borrowed a camera and started practicing every chance they got.
That's so cool. They were really dedicated to learning the craft, even if it meant photographing birds and squirrels in their local park.
They were really focusing on those foundational skills,
Yeah.
you know. like composition lighting and how to tell a story through their photographs.
And they didn't stop there. They actually started reaching out to other wildlife photographers through emails and online forums just to connect and learn from people who were already doing what they dreamed of.
And did they get good responses?
Well, they mentioned that they got a mix of reactions. Some people were really encouraging and supportive, while others were a bit more skeptical.
Which is pretty understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
Not everyone is going to be immediately on board with such a big life change.
Yeah, but the important thing is that they started building a network in that field, even if it was just a few connections at first.
Absolutely. And of course, they had to tell their family and friends about their plans, which probably wasn't easy.
No, I'm sure there were some raised eyebrows and maybe even some worries about job security and the competitive nature of photography.
Which is totally normal, right? Family and friends just want what's best for us, and a stable career is usually a big part of that.
Definitely. But for this person, the fear of staying stuck in a life that wasn't fulfilling was stronger than the fear of the unknown.
So they made the decision to go for it.
Hmm.
They quit their job and booked a one-way ticket to South Africa.
Wow. So they
Mhm.
just took the leap. And why South Africa specifically?
Well, it seems like they chose it for a few reasons. They knew South Africa had incredible wildlife and a well-developed infrastructure for photography. Plus, it was a place where they could really immerse themselves in that world.
And it's important to remember that they weren't doing this to become famous or rich. Their goal was simply to live a life that felt more authentic and aligned with their passions.
Exactly. It was all about finding that sense of purpose and fulfillment that had been missing in their old life.
So what was it like when they first got to South Africa?
Well, they talk about staying in shared hostels and spending all day, every day out in the field taking photographs.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it definitely had its magical moments. They describe seeing a cheetah running at full speed and capturing a bird in flight.
Wow. Those must have been incredible experiences.
Absolutely. But they're also really honest about the challenges. They had to deal with broken equipment, bad weather, and sometimes spending hours searching for animals without any luck.
It's good that they acknowledge those difficulties. It shows that even when you're living your dream life, it's not always easy.
And it makes the story even more relatable, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Definitely. And I'm sure there were times when they felt discouraged, maybe even questioned if they had made the right decision.
They actually mention feeling like just a tourist with a camera at times. Like they hadn't quite found their place or their expertise yet.
Which is a feeling that a lot of people can relate to when they're starting something new.
Totally. But then things started to change. They decided to create a blog and an Instagram account to share their photography with the world.
So they put themselves out there and started building an online presence.
And that's when things really started to take off.
What happened?
Well, one day a popular travel page shared one of their photos and their followers just exploded.
Wow, talk about a lucky break.
Yeah, it was a huge turning point for them. And then they started getting recognized by others in the industry. They had a photo published in a small magazine, and they even got invited to join a wildlife survey team for a nonprofit organization.
Those must have felt like such big wins after all the hard work they had put in.
Absolutely. It gave them validation and a sense of direction. And they also talk about the importance of saying yes to opportunities, even if they felt a bit out of their depth at times.
That's a great piece of advice. You never know where those opportunities might lead.
Exactly. And in this case, it led to freelance work with travel websites and conservation groups. They were able to invest in better equipment, learn how to edit their photos, and just continue to improve their skills.
So they were really building a career out of their passion.
And their lifestyle became completely different from their old life in London. They were spending nights in tents, traveling in jeeps, going weeks without internet access.
Wow, that's a huge contrast to their old routine of commuting and sitting at a desk all day.
Yeah. And through all of that, they started meeting other people who shared their love of nature and wildlife researchers, conservationists, other photographers.
It sounds like they found a real community of like-minded people.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging and shared purpose must have been incredibly rewarding.
And eventually they ended up moving to Kenya to work on local conservation projects, photographing endangered species, and even giving talks about their work.
It's amazing how their life unfolded from that initial decision to pursue their passion.
And now their photographs are being featured in magazines, exhibitions, and even textbooks. Talk about coming full circle.
Yeah, it's a testament to their hard work and dedication.
And, when you think about the trade-offs they made, it's clear that they gained so much more than they lost. Sure, they might not be making as much money, but they're living a life that feels truly meaningful and fulfilling.
They're waking up every day excited about what they do, and they're contributing to something bigger than themselves.
And it all started with that one question they asked themselves on that park bench.
If I could do anything, what would it be?
Hmm.
It's a question that we should all ask ourselves from time to time. Maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking about a change you want to make in your own life.
It might not be wildlife photography, but maybe it's pursuing a creative hobby, starting your own business, moving to a new place, or simply prioritizing something that's been neglected.
Whatever it is, there's probably a little voice inside you that already knows what you truly want.
But sometimes that voice is hard to hear, especially when we're surrounded by so many external expectations and pressures.
So the challenge is learning to listen to that inner voice and then having the courage to act on it, even if it feels scary.
And remember, you don't have to have all the answers figured out beforehand. Sometimes the best way to move forward is to just take the first step and figure things out as you go.
Exactly. It's like building a bridge as you walk across it. You learn and adapt along the way.
Because in the end, life is about making choices. And sometimes the scariest choices, the ones that take us out of our comfort zones, are the ones that lead to the most growth and fulfillment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's go back to that question. If you could do anything, what would it be? Take some time to really reflect on that.
And maybe the biggest takeaway from this story is that the biggest risk isn't failing, but the regret of never even trying.
So what's one small step you can take today to move closer to that anything, even if it seems insignificant? It could be doing some research, talking to someone who's already doing what you want to do, or simply allowing yourself to dream a little bigger.
Yeah,
That's something to think about.
that's something to think about.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It was a good one.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.